babies and pacifiers, as they say. But we've known each other for a number of years, and it's always good to catch up. So, what's new in your world?
Well, I'm continuing to grow and expand the special education tutoring program that I've been running. Most recently, I've actually been working with my oldest daughter, who's 16, turned to be too soon to be 17, on a really cool writing software program, which is designed to help students develop stronger writing skills, and then it gives them scoring and direct feedback on their writing to help them further improve their writing skills. So that's just one project that I've been doing along with all of the other cool stuff that I normally do on a regular basis.
That's exciting because I know sometimes when I speak to parents, they'll say that their children, daughter or son is 17 going on 30, right?
It's
Like they're
always a
growing
little,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, they're growing up so fast. Do you see some of that in what you do? Well, in regards to your own family, where your daughter has reached the age where it seems like she's growing faster than she was maybe previously.
Well, for sure. And I think that they get to an age, at least from my experience personally, where you start to feel like things matter more. And I feel like I want to help guide them with decisions that will affect their life down the road. So it feels like the decisions and the guidance I give them is more important and more impactful than it was when they were little, and it was more about bathing them and feeding them. This seems to just have a deeper effect on their long-term trajectory. So it is different in that respect.
Is it when it comes to like parenting and the education of parents, is the is there a different perception when it comes to, let's say, new parents versus seasoned parents? And if so, why?
Well, for sure. I think that you just have more perspective when you're a seasoned parent, in that you know what's important, you know what's not important. It's not new and overwhelming as much because you've done it before. And I think you are just able to handle the day-to-day challenges better because you've already been there and done that.
Yeah, that's always something I've wondered because most of the people who I know who are parents, they started off relatively young, right? They're probably in their late 20s when they did it, early 30s. Um, and sometimes they'll talk about, oh man, I wish I had kids earlier because of the energy levels, right? Do you speak to clients who maybe feel they don't have the energy or maybe even the resources or time to spend with their children as they're growing up in age?
I think that yes, but I think there's so many variables now. I think that kids are, have so many different options for play. There's so much technology. There's so much that we as parents don't even know how to navigate between social media and video games and how much they should or shouldn't spend on screens, but then all of their schoolwork is on screen. So I think it's sort of this ever-changing world, and we as parents are always trying to keep up with it and guide our kids in the right way, even though it's new to them just like it's new to us at the same time.
Yeah, I think that that connection is key. Like I'm in my late 30s. And I remember, I think like my generation is that last analog digital generation where we grew up when we were very young without the digital toys, but now as adults we have them. And sometimes I look back and I didn't have like an iPad or a tablet in front of me. If I wanted to be with my friends, I actually had to go outside physically, right? Not the meta universe where you can just log in and be outside.
Right. That is
Right? Yeah, that didn't exist, right? You know, in the 1900s, as the young kids would call it.
right.
But when it comes to the education of children, as parents, what are a few things that we can do more to connect with our children from an educational standpoint?
Well, first off, I would say reading is so important. I think that kids these days, they don't read as much as a general note because there are so many other options for entertainment. Back to what you were saying before, when I was a kid, probably when you were a kid, you could either read, watch TV, or play outside. Now feels like 50 million other things that they can do for entertainment. So I think the inclination is to not read, and I think that really affects kids negatively as they grow older and they're not readers. So I think that parents can really role model reading They should read themselves. Some families will do something like a family reading hour, where maybe right before dinner, right after dinner, a weekend day, you pick a time where everyone gets together in a comfortable area and each member of the family reads a book of their choosing. Could be on any topic, whatever it is. Maybe they discuss it with each other, maybe they just sit there together and read. But I think parents should model the kinds of behaviors that we really expect from our kids as well.
That's a really good point. I'm looking at, as I shift my eyes, I'm looking at my bookshelf. Do people even have a bookshelf? Right? I'm looking at all the books that I have, and you're absolutely right because libraries, I don't even think like physical libraries aren't a thing anymore. They're digital now, right? And I remember there's something that if you're going to go to the library, like if you're going to make that journey, you might as well read something because you've made that journey. Right now, if I have to make a decision between clicking on the icon for Netflix or the icon for the digital library, which one am I going to do? Could more options be an obstacle for some children when it comes to doing things like that?
Absolutely. I think, first off, it can be overwhelming when there are so many choices in and of itself. But I also think sometimes the allure of Netflix or a video game is just hard to say no to compared to reading a book that's just sitting there on your counter. It doesn't feel as exciting or invigorating. And I think kids don't necessarily have the perspective that, there's so much value that you can get in being lost in a book and learning about these new characters and really learning to love literature and reading. And I think that parents, if they can help guide their kids into finding that joy, I think there's just so much that kids will ultimately get out of it.
For parents, let's say parents over 30, over 40, right? Let's say, you know what, they're seasoned and they have a decade in the game, right? Um, that's usually, from what I've observed and what I've read, that's like usually for many people a pivotal point, not only in their life, but in their career and other areas, that 40 to 50 age range. What are some things that maybe can come up for those in general that maybe didn't come up when they were younger in their years?
Well, I think that in that zone, many will probably have kids that are teenagers at that point. And I think teenage kids are a whole, and I have teenagers, are a whole other animal in that, first off, as I alluded to before, there's technology plays such a pivotal role in their lives. It's how they socialize with their friends. It's as a parent trying to figure out should they be on social media, should they not be on social media, but if they're not, are they missing out on friendships or so I think really trying to navigate this world of technology is really challenging. And I think if we as parents try to micromanage, I find that a lot of times the kids can work the technology better than we can, and they find ways around it. So I think what I found is really having an open dialogue with teenagers and saying, this is what's great about technology. These are the harms. I'm not always going to be next to you if some disturbing video comes up on TikTok or disturbing text. So let's talk about how you can navigate this on your own if a situation like this comes up. So I think really teaching kids instead of trying to micromanage them, in my point of view, is more impactful and more powerful.
Could then that be difficult for some parents to do if they don't understand the technology or the medium that they're trying to help the kids set boundaries in?
Definitely. And I think that is a part of the challenges of raising kids now is that the technology is evolving so fast. And as adults, we don't really understand it. The kids understand it a lot better than we do. And it's really part of their world. So it is hard for us to guide them when they know it better than we do. So I think just as parents, we have to continue to learn it on our own, on our end as well, so that we can help guide them in their endeavors.
A few of the parents that I know that are my friends, they're mid 40s to late 40s, and they both identified this struggle where they'll have an issue, let's say it's a tablet or something on the internet, and because they don't know how to navigate it, because it's not like it's a book,
Right.
right? Or DVD. And for those who have DVDs, those are before Blu-rays and streaming and things like that. Is that because they don't understand, there's a sense of frustration. Because there's a sense of frustration, there's a sense of shame and guilt. I'm not smart enough to help my child navigate these things, or I'm not knowledgeable enough. For the parents who are maybe shying away from engaging because they don't want to seem regular or normal because they're taking themselves off the throne, right? When it comes to their children. How can we assist them in not feeling the shame, not feeling the guilt, but embracing the opportunity to learn something new in the benefit of their child?
Well, I think it's important to have that perspective, to not feel beaten down by it, but instead feel empowered that yes, this is a new world that I don't really know about it, but if I take the time to learn it and to engage with it, I can then better help my child. So I think it's being open-minded to learning something new for the purpose of helping your child.
I think that's the key, right? That's the key is that you're doing it from a place of, is this going to help my child? I know that in the few times we spoke, you also work with neurodivergent children as well.
Yes.
And the last time we spoke, how is that going, and what are some of the different ways that you're assisting them today?
Sure. Well, that is a big part of what I do, and the tutoring program that I run is for neurodivergent kids for the most part. And I think that there's a lot of new research going on, and it's always going to be an evolving field, which is great. But I have always found that when tutoring neurodivergent kids, if we really give them the right individualized diagnostic and prescriptive academic tutoring, using the right research-based multisensory techniques that are best for them, that really sets them up to thrive. So that's always been my motto, and it's something that I think has been very effective. With that said, I'm always open-minded to new technology, new ways of helping them that might continue to evolve so that we can help them even that much better.
Do parents struggle? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say parents. Is there maybe a disconnect in identifying a child that needs that type of attention and then getting them to the right person or right community to get that attention?
I think there can be, and that's why I think it's important for parents to always really advocate for their child. So if they feel like something may be going on, speaking to their child's teacher, having them evaluated. Once they're evaluated, if they have some kind of learning disability, ADHD, whatever it may be, figure out the next path. Do they need an IEP? Do they need a 504 plan? What services does their school offer? If they don't offer the right services, how can I get those services outside of school? But usually it doesn't happen organically on its own. Parents really have to be there. They have to be advocating for their child and really make sure that they're always getting the support that they need.
I remember I wrote something where parents in general are the child's first superhero,
Yeah.
right? They'll stand up for that child, they'll advocate as you mentioned. How important is that for the parents to be their child's first superhero or their first wall of support?
I think it's critically important. I always say a parent knows their child best. Never assume that a teacher is going to take care of it or a school is going to take care of it. Even if your child goes to an amazing school, you as a parent, in my mind, are responsible for making sure that they get what they need on an ongoing basis.
When we're at the point, let's say if I take myself now, who doesn't have children, but because I'm surrounded by a healthy group of people that does, is there maybe work that I can do to be of better support to parents with children who are neurodivergent?
Well, I think just, first off, reminding parents that to stay positive and to see the path through because there are so many kids that I've seen who have severe learning disabilities, severe ADHD, whatever it may be, that go on to be incredibly successful in life, whether they start a business, they're a CEO, they're a movie producer, whatever it may be. It's getting through school that can be the challenge, but once they get through school, they have the ability to thrive in life. And I think sometimes parents get lost in the process and they lose sight of that, but it's really important for them to always have that perspective.
Is school then the foundation that parents need to help create so the child can have a successful adulthood going forward?
Absolutely. Kids need that foundation, and yes, that is key.
That's what I always thought as well. Like if I look back on my educational history, it was elementary school, which is the first 8 grades. High school was okay. because there's a lot going on in high school, right? Your body's changing, your mind is changing, everything is going on. You're like, oh my God, who am I right now? It's a little bit of like identity crisis.
Yeah.
But then post-secondary, college and university, that is where I knew who I wanted to be. And because I knew who I wanted to be, I look back and I can see the foundation that was set earlier on. Is that how the natural progression of school can be? And what are maybe some of the challenges to that natural progression through the education system?
Generally speaking, that trajectory is sort of what most kids follow, but the timing may be a little bit different. Some kids, for example, go through that identity crisis, so to speak, when they're in early middle school, or, their bodies change at different times, or socially they have different dynamics. But I think generally speaking, that is kind of the trajectory of how it goes. And I think, again, it comes back to the parent just helping to keep their child afloat through all of this. It can be very difficult when your body's changing and your friends are changing and school becomes so much harder. And I think just parents always kind of keeping tabs on what's going on. If they feel like something isn't right with their child, don't ignore it. Talk to them about it. Try to have a dialogue. If they can't do that, seek someone else, whether it's at school or outside of school, to have a dialogue to try to find out what's going on if something doesn't feel right. But I think parents, again, know their child best and really should always be on top of that.
I look at, let's say, my grandmother's generation, where usually you had one parent in the home who was able to spend a number of hours with the child. Fast forward today, where both parents are working, in many cases, very long hours, right? And it can be difficult for them to be as active as maybe they would want to be in the child's life. Um, is that, I guess let me ask the question this way. Because security is always top of mind to a lot of people while I work terrain because I need to pay my bills and pay my bills. I keep a roof over my head and food in my child's stomach or even my stomach as well. Do parents struggle trying to navigate between the two because they want to be there for their child, but they only have so many hours in the day. If they take away from work, something else may suffer.
I mean, I think every family dynamic is different. And yes, I think that is a common scenario. And I think first off, I always say, try to be present in what you're doing. If you decide that this is a time for you to be working and don't worry about what you're missing in your kid's life. If you're at your kid's soccer game, try to be in that moment and really enjoy and embrace the soccer game and not think about everything else you have to do. And I know that's easier said than done, but I think that helps to kind of mitigate some of that guilty feeling like, well, I'm doing this, but I should be doing that. But if I do that, I should be doing this. And I think that can create a lot of stress for families. And the other thing I like is that, I mean, I'm a working parent and my husband works, and so I completely understand that scenario as well. But I think really trying to do what you can to carve out family time, where again, it's just family time. No one's on their phone, no one's talking about, you're together, whether it's having a meal together, playing a game together, even if it's 20 minutes on a Saturday or a Sunday. Just it gives you that time, that connection time, that even if we're all crazy busy, we can find 20 minutes to be together as a family to just talk and be and find out what's going on in each other's lives.
One family had like a box where when it was family time, you put cell phones, you put tablets, you put all the devices in there. The box is in another room, and everyone sits down and they have family time, talk about each other's day, goals, things like that. And when you mentioned that, it reminded me of when I used to work at a law firm, and both my parents worked, and the lawyer who was working for him and his wife worked. And he was sharing one day about his experience with his family, how he's missing his children's birthdays and special events, and he doesn't think that his children are going to spend a lot of time with him as he gets older. And it was an interesting contrast because my parents worked just as hard, different jobs, but I understood it. The way he made it seem like his kids didn't understand it. And as to your point, you can have similar situations. One set of children understands the working parents and why they're always away, and the other one doesn't. And for me, I was trying to be more than just a listening ear to him because I felt bad because he realized that there wasn't, he felt that he couldn't save it and he was very hopeless. Do you
Mhm.
experience some parents who experience the hopelessness and they're like, Emily, I just can't get through, so I'm just going to, it is what it is.
Well, again, I see things more from the education lens because that's really how, when I speak to parents, it's more about the education piece. But I think again that sort of falls on the lap of the parent of the choices they make. So if you have to work a lot, as many of us do, you have to make an active choice to either carve out those moments of going to a school play or a birthday party or a soccer game if that matters to your kids. If like you want your kids to feel like you're part of their lives, you have to just say, just carve that time out. And I know that can be easier said than done. And also just, if you have to be away for a work trip, talk to your kids about, tell them a little bit about what you're working on. I mean, that's certainly what I do and why it's interesting, why you want to be doing this. And maybe they'll have questions that might guide them in their future careers. So I think just leveling the playing field a little bit by engaging your kids in what you're doing, I think helps them to better understand why you can't always be around.
Especially from an education piece, right? Like I see so many parents, like through interviews and things like that, even though if they're away and they have like an 8, 10 hour day, if they're home with their child doing the homework with the child, or they're showing up to special events at the schools, like I look back and all the parents that were at the child plays, right? The musicals, things like that, or even just helping their child to get through school. I think it plays such an important piece, not only from, let's say, you want the child to do better, but the educational piece, like you mentioned, right?
Absolutely. And you pick up on a lot of little things from those moments. And if you miss them and you miss all of them, you might miss out on the big picture of what's going on with your child.
I guess one big question is, does education ever stop with kids?
I don't think education ever stops with adults. I decided I wanted to learn graphic design. So I now have a graphic design coach and I'm learning how to do graphic design. So I don't think education ever ends, but I think you have to always have that thirst for knowledge and the desire to never feel like you're done learning and that there's always new information and new things that you can learn.
So, one final question, Emma, before we close. I know we've done this a few times. So, three wishes, three things that you wish people knew about special education or education for those who have additional needs. What
Well,
are some of the, sorry, I was going to say, what are some of the ways that we can ensure that they're getting the necessarily assistance they need, especially as early as possible?
Well, I would say one thing, as I alluded to earlier, is that every child, whether they have special needs or not, has a gift and the ability to thrive and be successful in life and never lose sight of that. Your job as a parent is to guide them, but they have the ability to be successful in life. Number two is to always advocate for your child. Again, you as a parent know your child best. If they're facing a difficult situation or they're not facing a difficult situation, just always be there and always be on top of kind of how they're doing and help guide them along the way. And then in terms of helping to ensure that special needs kids find success, I find that really working as a team is really helpful. You don't need to do it alone. Work with their teacher, work with their speech therapist if they have one, work with their school. Really try to work as a team in helping them together and never feel like you're alone in this journey.
I love that answer, the last one, the
Thank
team.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily.
Oh, always.
Questions or comments for me?
No, I think it was great. I always enjoy our conversations. They are very free flowing, which is nice.
Yeah, I always because I think we talk about once or twice a year, so I always have like new things to ask because outside of myself, my circle now it's people who are either married or long-term relationships, and many of them have children, especially young children. So I always refer like to you or to someone else when I do speak. I was like, okay, this came up and
Yeah,
this came up because they'll tell me, but I don't have kids, right? So I'm just listening.
sure, sure.
Right. So, but then I remember some of the things that you said. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's a team. Make sure that you're showing up for them and being an advocate. Because I didn't realize how much of a struggle it was for parents from the educational side with their children.
Yeah, it can be. They don't always know where to turn. So, yeah,
Yeah. And then, as I mentioned, the two that, well, they're like, I don't understand the technology, so they just give up, and that's unfortunate because they don't want to, but there's a sense of shame, right? Because they don't know.
yeah, exactly.
Questions or comments for me?
I don't think so. Do you know when it's going to publish or what your timing is like?
Absolutely. So I live streamed this one because it was nice and early, so the full thing's available right away.
Oh, great.
Uh, do you want me? I can send. Do you want me to email you the link or send it here in the chat?
Email it to me. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'll email it to you. We can
Excellent.
go from there.
Yeah, great.
Anything else?
That is it. Always good chatting with you, and let's stay in touch.
Yes, yes. Until next time.
Sounds good. Have a great day.